we're going to skip from Labor's Nonpartisan
We got to still cover all that. We're just
League,
going to skip it.
which is the North Carolina League for Progressive Democracy I was telling you about.
Right.
We're going to leave it right now because of these pictures you've inquired about. And we're going to jump to my first experiences after I was hired by the United Mine Workers of America. It's District 50 Coke Workers, Gas Workers, and Chemical Workers Division.
Is this United Mine Workers? Not Mine Mill. Okay.
No, United Mine Workers of America, John L. Lewis, president.
Okay.
And they hire me.
What year are we at now?
In,
Month.
I'll have to think. 1941.
Okay, 41.
And send me to Saltville, Virginia. At first, I leave Mother in North Carolina. Perhaps with Bill, I don't remember, on her own. But very quickly, I find a place up there. And we moved to Glade Spring, Virginia, which is the closest place we can live in a free town to the company town of Saltville, Virginia. At Saltville, Virginia are the Matheson Alkali Works. You would think of them as Arm & Hammer soda today as one of their type of products. You familiar with it?
They sold to them, you mean, or?
No, that would be their product, okay?
Bicarbonate or something?
Yeah, right. That because it is one of the oldest salt mines in the country. It furnished salt before the Civil War, and then it furnished salt to the Confederacy, and it was fought over, etc. It's a very old mine, underground salt mine. Salt being very soft, like resembles potash, which might be a little harder. So they mine potash still. Salt they had discovered they could pump down in very large 12-inch pipes steaming water and have other pipes that suctioned it back out. Then put it through a dehydration process and ended up with their salt. But in the process, by grinding limestone from their quarries, which they had there, so they had quarry operations, in some way they mixed those two plus whatever else in plants. So these works were producing many other things, but the biggest thing you'd think of would be Arm & Hammer type of soda, okay? Something that's very broadly used.
I never thought you'd get soda out of the same place you got salt.
No, okay. Now, it's because it's salt, okay?
Yeah.
You tasted it's salt.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Now,
High sodium content.
What you got is, in fact, sodium. Isn't sodium salt?
Yeah, that's what I say. It's high in sodium.
All right.
Is this it?
That's an air view of the plant. So you have two plants.
It's still
Okay,
there?
they'd had a terrible disaster at this plant in 1924. That is a dam. All this water, this waste, had to be dammed up somewhere. 100 million gallons, you see something. What they allowed in 1924 was all these homes had been built, company houses below here. When the dam broke, this 40 or 80 foot high wave of water just killed all the people in those homes as it washed over them, and I don't know how many people died. So those are pictures I took of the then 1941 scene of. All right, so this is all something else here. That's the end of the right now. When I got there, the man on the ground was named Fred Rusco, rough and tough, big city Connecticut type of guy. And the first thing I walked into was all kind of things. For instance, I was subpoenaed as soon as I got there within a week or 10 days because he and all the local leaders were subpoenaed for having issued what the company considered or whoever was the plaintiff,
Yeah.
an outrageous leaflet. And in the course of it, he was singled out either as a frame-up, I don't know why, with about 5 aliases. You know, Fred Rusco, alias Rusco Friedman, alias this. It could have been he used all these gangsters. He looked like a gangster to me, and he acted like one.
Mm-hmm.
But he'd been hired by them he was more of a goon squad man. So he very quickly gave up the writing of the leaflets. That cured him, that leaflet, bringing him into court, you know, and watching his people fall apart. So I was able from then on to write responsible, agitational, you know, union leaflets.
You mean he wasn't good at that?
Not only not good at it, it was outrageous what he was doing. I mean, you know, it was, he would pick up an issue.
Mm-hmm.
The issue he had chosen to make at that point was pure violence. One of the guys, Dave Harris, that's what these banners outside the courthouse mean, was one of the committeemen of the union. So he had a grievance, but he happened to stand 6'9" and weigh about 280 pounds. So he goes to the quarry superintendent, his boss, who's up in a 2-story shack, and tells him, what the hell, I don't want to do this or that, whatever he was telling him about it. Remember, there's no union contract. We're just trying to organize the place. When the guy doesn't answer him properly, he reaches across, picks the superintendent up, holds him over his head sideways, and throws him out a double window, which means the guy hits with tremendous force into the 2x4 frame between the two
Dave Harris does
windows. Yeah.
On
And then
the
he
advice
falls
of this
from a
goon
second
squad?
floor elevated window to the ground, to the rough granite, the limestone ground of a quarry, okay?
Was it his own initiative, or the other goon squad guy told him
No,
to do
see,
that?
he's
Fred Rusco?
obviously charged with all kinds of assault, battery, attempt to murder, whatever he was charged with. So this is what he makes the issue, you see. He's got all these activists, there's Dave Harris himself.
Defending this guy, having thrown the guy out.
Yeah,
the
an
window.
injury to one is an injury to all. We defend, well, that's a good union slogan, but we defend Dave Harris. Question in my mind
Who was
is,
injured?
how did we get off onto this issue, okay? Then he fills a bus. We people say Harris stays, rap, I guess the superintendent goes. I don't know what it's all about when I get there, okay? Except these are the issues. I'm excused.
Fred
from
Rusco's
as
sort
soon
of a
as
wild
I
card.
get up and say I don't know anything about it, I don't know what this leaflet means. They excused me as a witness, okay? First time I ever got off very light.
Who?
The court.
Oh.
They subpoenaed me. And they proceed with this hearing, which finally gets thrown out.
Is that because you worked with Fred Rusco?
Yeah, also because the town is more enlightened than you would think it is once you're out of Saltville. Once you're in the county seat of Marion, Virginia. We live in a little, no place called Glade Springs. But in Marion, Virginia, is a person I don't then know about, but I should have known about if I read widely. Sherwood Anderson is the editor of the local weekly newspaper. So this
It's a short story off of it.
this distinguished writer on the American scene of literature is writing enlightened editorials. You see, it takes me a while to grasp, you know, this horrid company. You know, I mean, it's not all
What
that simple.
paper is it? Marion?
Whatever it
Marion
was in
County.
Marion, Virginia, the weekly newspaper. See, so he's a man you can go see afterwards when I find out who he is, you know. And
But
you can
you're
talk.
assigned to work with this Fred Rusco?
Yeah, and then remember I got company stores, and I still have some of their company script, their company paper money, and, you know, Saltville's a regular company town.
No union there, really.
And the worst issue he's missed, and I have to start making, the people do not have
Yeah, the cartilage.
the cartilage to get you to Saltville once. And the cartilage is gone. And the cartilage, I begin to go way past that because that's all I can see at first. And he's so dumb, he's sitting there with this issue. And then I realized that when you talk with them and you show interest in them, they take off their shoes and show you what working around it, say where they're working in a mill, where they're sacking it and all, and so getting in their shoes, that they've lost the cartilage in their toes.
Is
See,
that
as
salt
well.
does that to you?
Huh?
Like, why
I
would-
don't know. So first thing you do is you got into occupational hazard,
Yeah.
and you start making issues over it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Second thing he doesn't realize is that his main witness, not a young, but a middle-aged businessman, a very courageous businessman in a company town, the only man who owns any land that's not company land. I'll have to think of his name. But I once took you and Mama and the kids to see him.
Oh, Ruthless Pickle?
Rufus Pickle. We
I
went
never
back
knew
when
who
he
it
was
was.
80.
You went
When
to
he was
see him,
80, we
so,
went
yeah.
back, 85. He lived along Route 11 then. Rufus Pickle, Fred doesn't understand. I have to take it all in on about the first week. I'm there at the trial. He suddenly stops us, takes us both
The
under
Dave
the
Harris
courthouse
trial?
stairs. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the Dave Harris trial. We're being subpoenaed for a worse thing. We're interfering with it with this leaflet or something. See, whatever they
Some
charged
other
him with,
issue.
it's worse. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's coming up first before Harris is going to be tried. They've delayed Harris' trial, so they're going ahead and having these people testify that they ordered these terrible leaflets printed, interfering with the trial, according to the company lawyer. Meanwhile, there's a very good CIO lawyer. They've gotten a hold of him. He's defending very well. And I'm thrown into this, and Rufus Pickle wants to see the two organizers quickly under the courthouse stairs. He recesses things. He says, I can't take the witness stand.
He recesses things. What is his role?
He's a witness. He's been called as a witness. He's a businessman in Saltville
Oh, he just asks for time.
where the union can meet on his premises. So they've subpoenaed him. They've made him a victim.
Oh, I see.
They've made him a major union leader, even though his role is to be a sympathizer to the union. Allow us a place to meet. He trades for cash. He's a friend of the miners. He's
What
a friend
business
of
does he have?
a very big general store. And his daughter's making goo-goo eyes at me. She's just a very young kid, you know what I mean? And I'm married already, but, you know, she's just one of those kids, you know, it's coy at 16 or something. It's just an impression you have. You follow me? You have to repeatedly, you know, tell her, you know, my wife isn't here at the trial, or, you know, something like that, to get her to stop being a silly little kid around. Then there's Rufus
It's hard to
unwinds,
Newman types.
unwinds his story. And I don't get it all then, I just get enough of it. He says it's because of overthrowing the government. And of course Rufus, you know, Fred doesn't know from anything, Rusco, you know. He's used to, let's break both the kneecap stuff, you know, whatever he's been doing in organizing. Let's break a few more kneecaps. I mean, you know, that's his style.
You don't know
The
where
son
he
of a bitch
came
is going
from?
to do this. Connecticut. Yeah,
Oh.
they found him. I've never seen a more gangster type in my life. I mean, they say there were gangster types in the labor movement. Boy, I met one in a hurry with him. I don't know where they found him.
Was he your first run-in with the type?
Yeah, right. I mean, I did other nice
Labor-
guys in the
labor's
South.
non-pro-
This guy suddenly, you know, this is
Labor's
what they're like,
Nonpartisan
okay,
League, and Bart didn't prepare you
No,
for
nothing prepared you for this. So, anyway, he says, what the hell's overthrowing the government? You didn't overthrow the government. It's still in office, you know. He says, yes, I did. And I was tried and convicted of it with another 174 people. He, what the hell are you talking about? He says, it's a very famous trial in World War I. I opposed World War I, and then I'm, you remember, and, you know, thank God I've read some labor history there. The Oklahoma Farmers Union were all indicted, you know, for overthrowing the government. There were all kind of anti-draft movements that were brought up.
But he was just part of
Palmer raids.
170.
No, there was no question. That was the quickest indictment to get.
Yeah.
A conspiracy to overthrow the government. How the hell do you defend?
Uh-huh.
You know, you get some stool pigeon witness that says, yeah, I was at a meeting where they were doing that, and they send you right up. They didn't know how to defend at that time. Palmer raids, all that stuff. So I'm beginning to at least register why this guy is. I says, look, there wasn't an FBI then. I'm trying to get down to where I see he's a progressive politically, and Fred doesn't understand this. There's nothing, nobody knows about this. Take your chance and take the 5th only if you have to up there. But get up there and say who you are, and I'll bet you the only thing they're after is to shame Rusk. What's his name? You called his name Pickle. Ruthless Pickle. Rufus, I said, they're just going to get you for that. They're not going to get, you know, I mean.
What are they going to get him for?
They're just out to show that you went down to the print shop, or you distributed a leaflet, or
I mean, they don't have anything
you allowed them to be given
about
away in
his
the store.
overthrowing.
Yeah, they don't know anything about this. They're just trying to get the union in trouble
But
here.
he
for
thinks they do.
interference.
Yeah, okay.
He's trembling, though, so he's shaking like a leaf.
Yeah.
Thank God it turns out true. My confidence wasn't, mistaken. And that's, but that's a little escapade, it happens to you in organizing.
Yeah.
And there were always a lot of little escapades, funny little things that happen as you're organizing. See,
Right.
to meet a man of that character, to later find out how those trials went, and how wholesale those farmers, those socialists, these were socialists. This was the division of the Socialist Party in Tennessee that he belonged to that opposed the war. And they were going to punish him, like they sent Eugene V. Debs to jail. They didn't. The best lawyers in the country didn't keep him out of jail.
He was convicted?
Apparently, as I remember it now.
You don't think he went to jail, or you do?
I don't know if he went to jail, but I know there were so many of them that it was easy. If Eugene V. Debs was sent to jail, there were symbols of, they're going to crush the opposition to World War. And to these guys, this was the beginning of the left. This is where the communists came out of. You found it was like the left wing of the Socialist Party. They said, we're true to socialist principles. We don't murder our German brothers. We don't murder our French brothers, our Bulgarian brothers, whatever,
Right.
I mean, that was when he would explain it, you would realize they were, some of them old populists. He said the older men were populists from 1890s that became socialists, and men like him had come along and were socialists.
They were mostly farmers.
And that explained why he was so courageous in risking every bit of his property, every bit of everything in this. It didn't mean he didn't have a good following in that town. The people.
But a lot of his business would have been these miners too, right?
That's right. So it was a good business decision that if he was sympathetic to them, and if he was always, if he could afford to give them credit at times when they were laid off, then the company could not. The only piece of property they could not buy, steal, shut down was his. Okay.
About how many miners were there? I mean, was it a lot?
It was a big local. Yeah, maybe 1,000 people we were trying to get. And that's where I first learned to bargain. I'd never before bargained. Buck Borah, B-O-R-A-H, whose home was in Harriman, Tennessee, was the division director for the union. When he came in, there was a plant further up the valley than Saltville. If you continued into the mountain, from Saltville, you came to this National Gypsum, I think, plant, quarry, where they crushed limestone and made gypsum board, the kind of plaster boards. And then if you continued a few miles further, you were in West Virginia. So one of my pictures here is of the first labor spy I ever saw. The first professional labor spy. I don't know where it is. I may not find the picture. This is me handing out leaflets. See the company fence? Company property. That's me way in there in that black coat. Past the railroad tracks. I'm staying off their property, which is apparently here. You have to be very careful or their guards grab you. See the line?
Yeah.
See how I'm standing? That's me with a black sweater or blue sweater. And here's one of our favorite union guys with his lunch bucket, lunch pail. This is me making friends, in quotes, with a company foreman who asked to see a leaflet before I give it to the workers. So what the hell, within 5 minutes he's going to see it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? When I sand it out wholesale. Okay?
I'll know which one you are. But you're with a company foreman.
Well, yeah, I'm with the company foreman. I'm not finding it, but I will find it later, because later there's an Un-American Committee informer in here, in Mine Mill. But this is not somehow the picture of this spy who came over. We wondered what he was doing. Here he is. Here he is. He's gotten loose. He's gotten loose. I'll put them back over here to keep them closer to Saltville, okay?
Can you wait just a minute? I'll get some paper clips. That'll help. Then I can go through. And
Yeah, you'll be all right now. Okay, so this guy shows up, and if it wasn't for my awareness, see, they didn't say anything, any of the workers.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, I don't remember seeing his face by then.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there about a month.
Right.
And then they turn, one guy gets active, and he asks, and says, nobody else has ever seen him before. He doesn't live in town, or he doesn't work in in the quarry, or in the plant. So
who sent him?
I go up to him, and afterwards, and I said, thank you for coming out to the meeting, strike up a conversation. And you're not working at the plant yet, are you? I don't want to, embarrass him with a totally hostile question. He said, no, but I want to get on. I want to get and I want to be a good union man and all that, see. And I said, well, I bet you your home's in North Carolina. No, it's not. It's in West Virginia is why I'm a good union man. And he names the place in Bluefield, a little place near Bluefield, West Virginia, where he's from. That causes me to take the worst trip I ever took. I took a shortcut to Bluefield. Never do that on those dirt roads from there. If those roads can be terrible now, crossing over like into Kathy's mother's country, at Whitesburg or any of those places, it's the awfulest thing in God's name in those days.
What time of year was this?
I don't remember. Anyway, I get to Bluefield with this picture. I've developed this picture. And I go around find the UMW people in the bars, in town, through storekeep. And nobody can identify him for a while. When I do identify him, he used to work at one of the mines until he was sent up for child molesting. And then they wouldn't hire him in any of the mines again.
What was his name?
I got it all then. So I never could prove, except indirect, that the companies had a handle on him. See what I mean? They would have used him in an agent.
Right.
And they wouldn't have used him in Bluefield, where he was known.
How did you know to go to do that? I mean, did you just have a...
He gave me a clue by saying he was from Bluefield. I found him in a small community outside of Bluefield.
But where did you learn that strategy?
I don't know. I just wanted to...
Just seemed common sense.
This is it just showed how, if we had to have...
You wanted to know everybody at your meetings.
And if necessary, I now knew his name. I could subpoena him. If we were going to bring National Labor Board charges against him, if they were to defeat us in an election or something for using spies, see? If we could put them...
But actually, any of the workers could have been a spy, too, right? I mean, there's no way
Yeah, but it's another thing. If you put foremen, call them one after another, and superintendents, and say, look at this picture. Did you ever hire this man for any special services? See, and make one of them plagiarize. What do you call it? Not perjury.
I see. There's a
Commit
legal
perjury.
standing you'd have.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, okay. Throw the election out.
That's all I'm saying.
You were about to do an election, right?
That's what the whole goal was to get a majority.
Right.
At any rate...
You just have to have a majority to get your union in?
You need 30% on cards.
Signed up?
Signed up on a petition, on something.
That hasn't changed over the years, has it?
To petition for an election. And then you need 51% of the eligible voters, and of the voters who are eligible voting, okay? And then you can bring charges if there's any intimidation, coercion, a whole series of words under Section 7A of NLRA. So you have to learn all these things. A union organizer has to make appearances before the National Labor Relations Board. They don't hire lawyers in those years. I never had a lawyer to back me before any major board or hearing officer. They were always company lawyers. There were company lawyers, there were judges holding the hearings, but Now here
But all this
is
legislation...
flashing back to the Southern School for Workers,
Mhm.
and that's me at one of the sessions.
Mhm.
So you'll know this is the school. There are several, near the back of this album, are pictures of...
Can you
and
tell if
maybe-
it's 39 or 38?
I cannot tell, and if we had a
who's
magnifying
there.
glass, I might be able to say who's lecturing about what there.
Mhm.
Or if that's me, I can't see that now either.
Mhm.
That, and then, you don't need another one. I can see these are all the same thing. They're square dancing, see, at the Southern School for Workers.
You don't recognize
And if I'm not
me.
mistaken, this is a girl I take out on a date.
That's you.
So it should be 38.
38. You know
Should
that
be
picture's
38
38,
because
right?
I took her out for beer
Right.
with some other people one night.
Mhm.
And by mistake, I got ale.
Y'all had square dancing there?
Yeah, square dancing at Southern School for Workers, unless it's...
Where's this?
Now
this is
this
the
is,
picture. You have a
yeah,
larger version of it.
yeah, you've seen this one before. These all become
Where's this one?
career people of different types, from YMCA to Communist Party, okay?
Who? Where's
This is the
picture?
League of Young Southerners, officers. These are the officers of the League of Young Southerners. That's Dutch McConnell of the Textile Workers. That's myself. That's Wiley Kritz, YMCA secretary. This
Right.
is Phillips Russell, a young faculty member here at Chapel Hill, with the same name as a celebrated older professor, but not connected to him. This is Junius Scales, then an earnest young college student,
Yeah.
probably communist, but, you know, earnest and serious. That's Tex Dobbs, a famous preacher and ladies' man, and that's Jim Jackson, a leader
yeah, I
of the
remember.
Southern Negro Youth Congress, who becomes a leader of the Communist Party. Okay.
Wait a minute. You never told me about this organization, the League of Young
League of
Southerners.
Young Southerners is the youth division of SCHW, which I've told you about, Southern Conference for Human Welfare, is where you first heard it.
Oh, okay.
That's where you heard
It came out of that conference, sort of?
The 1941. It came out of 1941 in Chattanooga. It was organized at that point. I don't know whose idea it was. I was just caught up in it. Here's one more picture of the separated from the others, see? Here's a picture separated from the others. Can you see it?
It says August
Here.
38. This one has on the
but
back some
yeah,
stuff.
It's this, see? I told you I was the youngest student, and that's the oldest student, and that's Dick Holyfield. And these are two textile workers.
It's saying
And here are all their
yeah,
names.
Yeah, it has it on the back.
August 38.
It's convenient.
Jackie Buckley, J.F. Hines
Mhm.
of the Southern Tenant Farmers Union, myself, Nettie Edmondson, and Richard Holyfield. 5 of the students, see? Now see what a dude, white shoes.
Yeah, right.
And look at me. Look how he wears his trousers. That's what I mean by dude, huh?
And now you wear yours
I'm the
like...
slob. I'm like the old man's wearing better stuff than I am. See what I mean? So that should go over. I'll put it with the.
Now where
Southern-
are you here? It says 8. It says
That's
30.
the stuff. I'll put it with.
Oh, that's the
I'll
Southern
put it with.
School?
Put it right in here. Now we got it together. Okay. Okay.
Let me...
So we're out of Saltville. Let's jump. And maybe we can go. We go in the living room, or you want to stay here?
What, for Bob?
20 after, yeah.
No, it's more you stay here because we don't have to stop till
Okay.
they come.
Well, okay. So I'm not going to stay with Saltville. Saltville's interesting. Company stores, company houses, company town.
Was Rufus Pickle's store, did he take script from there?
I don't remember whether he discounted it or took it and bled it back into the company through somebody else. I don't remember how he handled that. Many of those stores had to find a way to either lose 10% or something through and use some worker who knew some company guy to bleed it into the company.
But all they got paid was the script, right?
And he might have demanded cash.
They
I
didn't
don't
get
know.
cash money as pay?
Yeah, they
The
got
miners-
cash. They did. I didn't mean that. You got paid in if you wanted an advance, you bought a $20 script book or a $10 script book.
Oh, it was just an option.
Yeah, it's a way you get so many penny ones, so many nickel ones, so many dime, quarter ones, so many dollar ones, you know.
Was that true generally, like throughout
Yeah, those
Appalachia?
are
You had a
script books,
choice?
and then there's script money, the script coins.
But you didn't have to shop at the company stores, just wasn't anywhere else to shop.
No, there were companies that put a gun to your head, too.
Oh.
That'd be more difficult to do when you're out of the coal fields and out of the whole idea of company stores in a place like Saltville with a national firm headquartered in Niagara Falls, New York. They're not going to...
Which firm was it?
Matheson Alkali.
Oh, yeah. That's the firm that you were organizing.
Yeah, I guess they shipped all this stuff up there to go into boxes and to be packaged. Well, all we ever...
So it wasn't like coal mines, exactly.
It was like coal mines, since all that left there was 70, 100 cars of soda ash, okay, or whatever we left.
I always think of this District 50 being the same number as what is up in West
What?
Virginia. I always think of District 50 being the same number as what is up in West Virginia.
No, District 31 was in
Fairmont, Morgantown?
Yeah, and then District 30 was down in Kentucky. District 28 was in Virginia.
Oh, I see.
District 17 was in southern West Virginia.
So this just extended around Saltville and...
No, this was not a geographic district. This was a jurisdictional district.
Gets
This-
complex.
Well, this did not take in the coal mines. This took in the coke ovens around the coal mines. That's what it began as. Sometimes I was assigned to coke oven workers, you see. Now, I told you I learned to bargain in a sense that it was a total apprenticeship. Buck Bora one day called, said he was coming in, and I forget, Fred wasn't there, and I said, gee, you're going to bargain with National Gypsum. I think that was the name of the company. And he said, yeah. I said, I'd sure love to... Huh?
Lean forward, I'm not sure.
I'd sure love to, see what it's like. He said, then come along. The only thing he said to me just as we started in was, just be sure to keep your mouth shut. Now that is what I mean by apprenticeship. See, that's not the way people, apprentice many people today. It's more the old Oliver Twist system of learning to be, a trade or something.
Was it that understanding when you hired on that you were kind of an apprentice?
No. I asked to go to this meeting, and he said, then keep your mouth shut.
Oh.
It's very good advice. I've had to give it to other people since. No, if you want to lose the whole bargaining, have some idiot open his mouth in bargaining. I mean, how does he know what the principle of it is? Linda Orgel can tell you more about that than anybody because she's extremely experienced, okay? But she served an apprenticeship. In other words, as smart as she is, she still knows, even if she's in charge, to tell anyone with her to keep their mouth shut, even if they think they've learned, okay? It's much later when you get an assignment to divert the company, to take them off to pick daisies, or you open and ask some questions about last time, and then you do this or that. See? So that it's a totally different thing. So I sat there and I learned. I did. I watched him. Wherever they were in bargaining, I don't remember now whether they were at a second or third stage of the bargaining. And I learned a lot. Listening is a tremendous learning process in a confrontational situation. In other words, you watched, he was smooth generally. He was a smooth negotiator compared to a Fred Rusco would never have been anything but an angry, temperous negotiator. Useless, really, in negotiations, without a sense of strategy. This guy had a sense of... So I learned something. He knew he had a strategy. I could see he knew where he was going, although I didn't know exactly where, unless he told me something after they took a break. If they asked for a break, like you asked for timeout in a ball game, then he would talk to me and tell me what was going on. And or if he called for timeout on something they did, sometimes he would say, I have nothing I want to tell you, it's just that I wanted to throw them at this point, act like what they said was serious. I want them to think more about this issue, so when I come back in, I'll say, this doesn't do it at all, but I thought you were going to do something else, so I thought I'd go out and give it more thought, you see.
Now, was this your first job as an organizer for United Mining Workers?
Yeah, Well,
Before
for
you
the
were
United Mine
political,
Workers,
before.
yeah, but it was still, I was thrown in with, without being thrown in with the United Mine Workers. I was thrown in with John L.
Coke
Lewis. In this job,
Mhm.
although I worked for the United Mine Workers, I never met John L. Lewis. In the other job, I was extremely fortunate, as I told you, in being called to Washington as one of about 35 people that sat for 3 days with Mr. Lewis. It was unbelievable to me. Opportunity like that. It just shows you what a new movement does when a leader knows he's investing in people.
Right.
It's something I told you Michael has to learn up there. You got to learn your investment.
Well, it was
in
like
people.
it was like the political arm of the union. It's what you were working for before, and now
Yeah.
you're an organizer, but not with
That's
the
right.
mine workers. It's more
That's
the
right.
salt workers and the coke workers.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And so they hired you on for District 50, and you were there, what, most of 41? Or?
Well, I was there. I remember being on the road to Knoxville, which was the headquarters office for the Tennessee CIO on Pearl Harbor Day. I was on the road and had the radio on in the little 31 Chevrolet I still drove.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I was driving yet.
Mm-hmm.
One I told you about in North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
Very fine car. You could take it apart and put it together and you really had a beautiful car. Better steel in it than a Rolls Royce
You
today.
should have kept it.
Yeah. Wow, very valuable. Beautiful, those old cars. Anyway.
So were you coming or going? If you're going
On
to
my way to Knoxville. Now, apparently there was something going on there. I don't know whether I was meeting Buck Bora, the regional director. There was some reason for going over there. But in the course of it, I was approached about moving from Saltville. That the union felt there were, I think Buck Bora might have had that in mind, that perhaps they're investing two people in a hopeless drive. They'd already been in there before Rusk, this Fred Rusco had been sent in with other organizers. One famous person was Howard Lee had been in there, they told me. I never knew him to be in there, but he was later a leader of the American Youth Congress. So I don't know what he was doing in there, because he was a handsome football player type, about 6.5 feet tall, who could make speeches, but I'm not sure he could ever organize his way out of a paper bag at having any skills one-to-one with workers in their homes and the other things that you had to do. Figuring out the issues, and doing the nitty-gritty of the work. Anyway, I'd slowly assembled more knowledge that they had wasted a lot of money in there over a period of years, and nobody had cracked this place open. So even with Ruthless Pickle letting you meet, you never got more than 30, 40 people out to your meetings. It was going to take...
You didn't have a chance of 30% signing up, in other words.
This Harris case didn't do us any good either. It drove away.
No, I would think that would hurt you.
They're nonviolent workers, I mean, everybody doesn't have this image that they're big enough to pick up the superintendent and throw him out the window and then stand trial for it and face a few years in prison. I don't even know what happened to them. I guess the union kept continuing the case forever, if they were smart, because I wouldn't want it to come to trial. Anyway.
They were just thinking they'd give up on Saltville.
I think either then or shortly afterwards, Mother and I began to look for a cheap hotel. We couldn't afford an apartment.
You were living in Glade Springs, not an apartment?
We were in a duplex with Fred Rusco.
Oh, great.
And in the basement, the guy, oh, was another funny incident happened in Glade Springs. It's humorous. Before I met Fred Rusco, he was out of town for 2 days. I had to look for a house. And I realized, well, can't stay in Saltville, it's a company town. I began stopping along the farms along there, asking did anybody have a small house they wanted to rent.
You mean you couldn't have gotten a house in Saltville?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have rent anyone.
So I'm looking on my own. And I drift out onto Route 11 to the first tiny little filling station.